Thank you to everyone joining us today, and a big thank you to today's guest, Matthew Ibrahim. Matt is a strength and conditioning coach, a college professor, a public speaker, an author, wears a number of hats in his career. He's the founder of Athletic Performance University and holds faculty roles at Maryville University and American International College. He also serves on the Massachusetts State Advisory Board for the NSCA. He is a sought-after speaker. He has presented worldwide, including in Europe and across more than 25 U.S. states at EXOS, Google, UFC Performance Institute, Stanford, Duke, NSCA, Perform Better. I'm probably leaving some out at this point. His expertise has been featured in Muscle and Fitness, Men's Journal, NSCA Personal Training Quarterly, Science for Sport, and T Nation. He is here to tell us all about his journey, what he's up to these days, and his newly released book, Train Like a Pro, Programming to Develop Your Inner Athlete. So again, thank you so much, Matt. I really appreciate your time.
Aaron, I appreciate you having on. Next time for my bio, just say, Matt, coach, professor, let's rip. It just makes it like, when you go speak and they're like, how do you want me to announce you? And I'm like, do not read the bio. Just like, let's just get into it. But I genuinely appreciate that. I appreciate being on. I think the most important thing is to have fun with training. I think as we advance in our life, I'm being mindful of wording here, we sort of forget to have fun. We get the opportunity to work out, to enjoy training, to sprint, to jump, to lift weights, to be powerful, to be faster. But then it transitions to life stuff and lack of time. There was that commercial back in the early thousands. I forget what the company, but it was something about like the guy sitting on the couch and the wife's like, did you get a chance to work out today? He's like, nah. I had a phone call with my mom. Like life gets in the way, right? And it's how can you prioritize your time and maximize what you're doing in that time to still enjoy training so that you don't have to work out or train. You get to, and you get to enjoy it, and it gives you that value back. And so for me, it's just bringing the fun back into it, and then bringing back, don't stop doing athletic stuff. That's the most important thing.
Absolutely. And I think one thing that you mentioned there is really important to remember: have fun training. Make sure that you enjoy it so that it is part of your lifestyle, so that it doesn't seem like a chore. I think everyone probably knows that you should exercise to some degree, but not everyone enjoys it. So I guess to your point, if you can find a way to make that enjoyable, then everything's better in the end.
Yeah, and to that point, Aaron, I think the biggest thing is like enjoyment. Like think back to when you're in high school. Like you enjoyed playing the sport because you got to compete to win, to be with your friends, your teammates, so on and so forth. So for me, it's how do you bring that back to someone who's in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, whatever, and do it the right way. And so for me, I've always personally been chasing, like, how do I remain competitive? Like, what are you training for? Like, that's the question that you'll always ask your clients, your athletes, or your patients if you're in the rehab world. And you have to ask yourself that question. So for me, after high school and after college, like, what am I training for? And I'm sure, like yourself, you jump into a variety of areas. Whether it be, I think the first thing I did was I read back to front, cover to cover, Mark Verstegen's Core Performance, now EXOS, obviously, and like train to be athletic, which obviously is a big influence on my training philosophy, and that with Mike Boyle, et cetera, et cetera. But so that was the first go around. Then it was like, okay, well, there's this kettlebell thing, Strong First Gyra or SFG, and I was kind of training with kettlebells only. And then I was doing, tried out Olympic weightlifting, and I wasn't really good at it, but I was trying, right? And then there was powerlifting where I wouldn't call it competing like on a main stage, but I would compete at local events for powerlifting competitions. And then, I got relatively strong, but not brutally strong. And then, what do I do next? And so since then it's been, okay, how do I remain athletic? Well, we know what decreases the fastest and the most, right? Power and speed. So we have to train those things. So sprinting became a really important thing. Looking at like Derek Hansen, Lee Taft, Charlie Francis, their work, to name a few. And then agility, obviously Lee Taft and all those individuals. And then over the past couple of years, I got into Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and really just figuring out how to get comfortable with the ground, grappling, moving around somebody, pressure, how to deal with stress in a stressful situation, right? When you have someone has you in a rear naked chokehold in jiu-jitsu, for example, how do you breathe and stay calm and remain athletic and understand where to balance and put pressure and alleviate pressure to maybe off balance them, just giving you concepts. And now it's just about just sprinting twice a week, lifting weights, being powerful, having fun, competing for life for me.
Yep. Yeah, you sounds like you've tried out a number of different things just to find out exactly what you might like, which is probably what a lot of people should do. I think it sounds like, to your point, you know, people might think that they have to train one's very specific way, and then if they get bored with that, then a lot of people might stop training. So I want to get to something here. It's on the very first page of your book, I guess technically the first page after the table of contents, but you said most people think that training for athletic performance is exclusively for athletes participating in elite, collegiate, or professional sports. You said that couldn't be further from the truth. All humans are athletes. And I wanted to point that out specifically because I think that's such an important and powerful statement. And one that, I'll be honest, like didn't really hit for me until after I got into my training career. I didn't really think of it that way. So I guess for everyone listening, could you kind of explain a little more what you meant by that, and maybe how some people they might need to shift their mindset in order to do that?
Something I've learned being in the field for almost 2 decades now is if you can explain it simply, it's going to be the best way to do it. So for me is, can you control your body? To me, if you can, that defines athleticism. I understand what the textbooks say. I understand what the research says. I understand there's a multitude of other factors. But if you can control your body in space, which, you know, that factors in mobility, flexibility, cardiovascular strength, power, speed, etc.
Right.
To me, that is athletic. You don't have to be Michael Jordan. You don't have to be Mia Hamm, Michael Phelps, like Serena Williams. But can you control your body? If you can, you're building athleticism. So if I look through that lens, then that to me, it allows everyone to feel like they have an ability to be athletic. Like all humans are athletes is really what I'm trying to echo.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's good from my experience, probably your experience too. You'll have those clients that are, you know, maybe in their 50s and their 60s, and sometimes they revert back to when they were competitive athletes. And I think for some, I would say there's probably a time when they end up getting injured because they do something that they're not capable of at the time. But at the same time, I mean, you're making a great point that you can still train that way, and that you should, as long as you do it the correct way.
Yeah, I mean, to that point, like, you know, again, I don't live in the rehab medical world. I have worked as a massage therapist and PT clinics as rehab aides, but that has enhanced my ability to strength coach. What I'm trying to get at is, if you really think about that, the identity thing with pain, right? In the rehab world, like when you have a licensed practitioner treating, you know, you'd like to utilize what's called a biopsychosocial compass, right? So that you're understanding it's not just how they move or what their ailment is, how they think in of that ailment or that injury, and their self-efficacy. Say that word 3 times fast, right? Their belief in their ability to achieve a task. And so for me, when you empower someone to build up their self-efficacy, right, those intrinsic motivational factors, like I can do this, to me, I like to use that as a tool and then swoop in with you are athletic. Because if you hit that with them first, they're like, well, I'm in pain. My mom and dad had knee pain. My sister-in-law has a hip. Like, then they start kind of going down that rabbit hole. Whereas if you can kind of help them stack small wins over time, you can have a really high hill of wins.
Okay. And that might also be an argument for always training, I guess, so that you never get out of that, area or that level of ability. Because I think we've either, whether listeners have been in this position or if you're a trainer, you had a client where, you know, maybe they haven't trained or exercised for a long period of time, and then they try to jump back into it. But if you just keep with it your entire life, then you don't have to build back up.
Consistency over intensity. I'm sure you know this. We all know this, but everyone wants to, oh, well, I'm getting back into it. I'm going to do this. And look, I applaud your efforts if you're that person. I get it. Life gets in the way. Like, I mean, I have an 11-month-old daughter. We, you know, I just got a new job. I like a lot on my plate, like all of us do. I'm not special, but you find a way to make it work. It might not be perfect, but you have to consistently do it day to day, week to week, month to month, year to year. And again, that again going back to simplicity of just stacking wins over time.
Mm-hmm. What would you say, and this is obviously in relation to the book, what would you say is maybe some of the most important components to train for, I guess, non-competitor, or I guess we could say retired athletes that still want to be athletic?
Yeah, I think the most important thing is just focusing on some level of strength training.
Okay.
So the research talks about resistance training or RT.
Mm-hmm.
Do something that's going to resist you and you resist back. So strength
Yeah.
training. Definitely do power training. So moving lighter loads at faster speeds, lesser volume, obviously for higher recovery periods.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to want to sprint. You're going to
Yeah.
want to sprint to some extent once, twice a week. More is not a good idea in this scenario. So less is more, especially
Okay.
if you haven't sprinted in a long time. Keep your percentage of effort lower. Like let's say start out
Mm-hmm.
60, 70%, tempo runs, longer distances, longer recovery periods. And then over time being like months, not just like
Mm-hmm.
days,
Yeah.
when you can kind of get higher intensity, lower volumes, but definitely sprint, strength train, power train. I think those are the big ones. And I think the one that often gets forgotten, like it's not important, but it's vital to our heart health, obviously, is
Mm-hmm.
cardiovascular endurance and stamina. So get your
Okay.
cardio reps in, like low intensity, steady state cardio, just heart health. I know
Mm-hmm.
the Boyles model, like they harp on this a lot at CFSC. I was actually doing some of their workouts for a while because I firmly believe in hiring coaches and doing workouts and
Mm-hmm.
training programs that I can learn too. Air bikes are great, but definitely heart health, so cardiovascular endurance, strength training, power training, speed training, and then agility. Some level of reactivity. You don't start with that. You start with change of direction ability. Think of
Okay.
your classic like 5-10-5 or even like a 10-5-5-10, basically changing directions
Mm-hmm.
where it is rehearsed. You know exactly what you're doing.
Yep.
Press go, do it, done. When it comes to agility, which requires a reactive component, obviously that's tougher to do if you're just training alone. But there's ways you can be creative, and if you kind of dive into the book, there's some ways to get into it as well. But I think those would be the biggest things to focus on. You probably just got overwhelmed if you're looking like I have to do all of those things.
Right.
Pick 3 or 4 days of the week, mix it up, or if you'd like to just look at the book, they're all written out there. I think
Yep.
there's 48 weeks. 48 weeks. So
Yeah.
you have about a year of training in there. And I did the thinking for you guys. So to make it nice and simple.
Absolutely. And I think as we age or after we get out of our, like, I guess, competitive athletic stage, I think a lot of people, it seems, know that they should do some type of strength training. Maybe power gets lost at some point, but I was having a conversation the other day about sprinting and, like, can we normalize sprinting for people older than 25, 30, at least? Because that seems to be the age, probably, like, once you get out of college, like, nobody sprints anymore. So how important would you say that is?
Vital. I think there was a recent research article that came out, something about to the effect of professional athletes, and I'll backtrack, hitting 95 to 100% max effort on sprints on a weekly basis were
Mhm.
less likely to fall prey to hamstring muscle strain, which is
Okay.
important, super important. So we know that doing it is helpful. It acts as kind of like a safeguard or safe proof to our hamstrings in terms of strains or injuries or what have you. What I would say is, again, taper and temper your expectations. Gradually bring it back into play. Don't sprint into sprinting, so to speak. But also from a strength training standpoint, when you're loading, the most important component is the eccentric. If you can strengthen while you're lengthening, think of like hamstring curls, or whether you're facing down or facing up. I want to be mindful of
Mhm.
like anatomical terms. I don't know if everyone's like prone supine, but just
Sure.
like the lowering when you're stretching out your hamstring, load it that way
Mhm.
primarily initially, so that it's ready for the high demands of sprinting. People forget like how much of an impact sprinting has on your body, not just your hamstrings, but like your heart and
Yeah.
your surrounding muscles. Like it's a lot. It's a like maximal contraction. So be mindful of that. It's sprinting is vital. It's hugely important.
I was this reminds me. I was at the gym that I train out of. I was covering for another trainer. He had an adult group, and I thought, you know what? I'm gonna treat these guys just like my high school athletes. So we're going through our dynamic warm up, and I think it was the first time that in a while that they had done things like broad jumps, like single leg hops, like skipping, just basic stuff like that. And you could tell they were kind of making fun of themselves at first, you know, with their ability level at that time. But at the same time, some of them even commented afterwards, like they said, like, "Hey, I miss being able to move like that. I
Yeah.
should probably do that a lot more often."
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's the thing. It's losing that component, and I want to add into that. So thank you for sharing that, Aaron. I also want to add, let's not forget the value of building muscle
Yeah.
and hypertrophy. I think that unfortunately gets poo-pooed on too much, where it's like, well, we don't need to build muscle. We're not bodybuilders. Like
Yeah.
last time I checked, muscle is body armor, and you strength train and load the tendons. Very
Hmm.
important in the
Yep.
ligaments, and but more importantly the bones, bone mineral density, longevity. Like we have to think of that component. Like that's the holistic way to look at it as well. Like not just like a sweet pair of biceps, but elbow joint health, tendons surrounding that area health, bone mineral density. So those are vital components as well. So don't be afraid to build muscle as well. It's not like a bad thing. It shouldn't be taboo.
Hmm. So where did this? I know you kind of explained it a little bit. Where did this idea come from? And you know, putting together this resource and just kind of like bringing this to light for more people to share and appreciate to kind of get that information out there.
Yeah, I'll be very direct with you. I had an online training subscription called Forever Athlete.
Okay.
And I had about 100 members in it. This is probably about 3 or so years ago, and I'm sure you know Corey Van Wyck, who used to be with the
Yep.
company. He's probably tired of me shouting his name out, but I mean, he gave me the opportunity, so I would never forget him.
Right.
He reached out and said, basically, to a lesser extent, would you be willing to stop offering that program in place of a book? I said, where do I sign? So to me,
Yeah.
it's about legacy. It's not about the financial gain. It's about, can I have this book as an accessory resource in my undergraduate and graduate
Mm.
classes as I teach as a professor? Can I have this eventually in a high school classroom? As a supplemental resource? Can I have this? Strength conditioning internship. So to me, it's about impact. And so the thought process was, how can I make this educational, but also accessible and
Mm.
digestible? When you look into the book, like it's not super thick. I didn't want it to be like heavily research and evidence based from a reference standpoint. So there's no research
Okay.
articles in there, but
Right.
the training philosophies that I subscribe to are very tried and true and backed in science, where the goal is health. Right, like
Hmm.
health comes before performance in the dictionary for a reason. Let's get bigger, stronger, faster. I'm all for that, right? But I want to
Right.
stay healthy, robust, and durable first and foremost, and then get bigger, stronger, bigger, faster, stronger. I think sometimes we flip that the other way, which is,
Mm.
is not a great recipe for success.
Yeah, and it sounds like just from looking through the book, it sounds like that's kind of the overall theme. In addition to remaining athletic as you age, just those health benefits that come along with it. Because I know you mentioned in the book, some people might think, "Hey, I'm not competitive anymore. Why do I have to train like this?" But you do mention the health benefits of staying athletic long term.
Yeah, and I think adopting some sort of a goal. Like I know
Hmm.
when we were getting married, my wife and I, back in late September 2021, the 6 months prior, I was her coach.
Okay.
I'm not gonna, she didn't always listen to the coach, but my point is she had very specific goals, right? So when you
Right.
have specific goals, that is your accountability partner. Like I'm sure yourself, myself, like I don't need someone to tell me what to do. Like training is my
Mm.
lifestyle. But
Right.
the vast majority of people in the world, and we need to understand this, is that they don't enjoy training. Like why would they?
Right.
Like it's not the most fun thing in the world. So if you
Hmm.
have a goal that you can allocate there, that holds you accountable. That's why I get
Gotcha.
back to that competitive edge. You had it in high school. You may have had it in college if you play college sports, right? But you
Hmm.
have to think of like what's going to hold you accountable, right? So for me, when I show up at the turf field or the track yesterday morning to do my warm up, dynamic warm up, my agility work, my sprint prep work, then I have to drive 5 minutes down the road to go to a gym. Like all of
Hmm.
this takes about an hour and a half. Like
Yep.
why would I get up early to do that? What's going to be committed? That's an hour and a half of the day where I could spend with my daughter before work, et cetera, et cetera. Right. So what's the value there? The value is, well, I want to be around to crawl on the
Hmm.
ground, to play sports when my daughter's old enough to do so. So to me, that's my why. right? What's your
Yeah.
reasoning? What's your goal? And I don't mean to be like super like emotional or passionate about it, but you have to have a
Yeah.
goal because that's going to hold you accountable when you're too tired or it's snowing outside. Here in New England, like, oh, it's snowing, can't go outside. Like everyone has their excuses. I'm not saying they're illegitimate. I'm just saying, like, I forget, Aaron, you probably know that. I forget what the saying is. Something about um, like how you feel is not as important as like the decision you made to do the thing
Right.
you confirmed you were going to do. I think Kobe Bryant said something about, well, that the contract I signed in the off season was I'm going to do it regardless of how I feel.
Yeah.
That's the contract I signed. Something to that effect. I'm probably butchering it, but you kind of get what I'm saying here.
I
Like
do.
discipline and consistency are the most important things when it comes to training. Because if you don't have discipline, you won't do it. And if you're not consistent, well, you're just not going to show up. So that to me is the way to look at it.
And I think you just mentioned Kobe Bryant right there. I mean, we all watch sports. Well, I shouldn't say all, but like most of us watch sports, and we love that competition. We love some people like kind of like living through the lives of those pro athletes or even college athletes. So it sounds like, I mean, this is a way to get people excited about training again, thinking like, hey, like I can train that way too, even if I'm not going to step on an NFL field or whatever.
Yeah, and
So
come up with your own competition. Like I know in the
yeah.
summertime, my brothers and my cousins, like we play weekly. We call it hydro hoops. It's just
Okay.
basketball. It's pool basketball,
Yeah.
right? The water's about waist high. You got to wear a pair of water shoes because the gunite, that material really chews up your toes. But like we take it seriously in the summertime. You know, 2-3
Nice.
times a week. So like, how do you stay conditioned for that? Like I know in the wintertime, indoor pickup basketball. Like how do you stay ready for that? How do you stay prepared for that? And that's the most important part. It's being prepared for when the moment comes.
Yep.
All too often we say, well, I'm going to start working out again. And then you have a spike in activity, AKA, I'm going to work out 5 days this week when I haven't worked out at all for 5 months. Let's gradually get into that. Like we know
Right.
progressive overload
Right.
is the words we use in strength and conditioning or fitness. Graded exposure is in the rehab, the medical world. Either way,
Okay.
go slow. Go slow
Right.
into what you're doing. Don't rush. Start maybe a couple days a week with something. Do that for a month. You're feeling great. Then bump it up to 3 or 4 days a week. Do that for a month. Feeling great. Then bump that up to 4 or 5 days a week. Like it's got to be this gradual increase. It can't be this like super fast spike because that's when, unfortunately, we're increasing the chance of getting hurt. And when we do that, that discourages us. That to me is the cycle people most get into.
Right. Right. And that's unfortunate when it's like people are excited, they're motivated, and then they ramp up way too soon. They get injured, and then they think, well, why did I do that? I might as well not train now. And then that's when I mean, it just kind of stinks for that person and for if they have a trainer, the trainer too. It's like, man, we had all this positive momentum going, and we ramped it up way too soon, and now they're injured, and they might not train again. So that's
Yeah, I
yeah.
mean, most people they want to take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and I'm like, well, let's just slow down. Let's put this
Right.
in the slow cooker, the crock pot. Let it go. Let it simmer for 5-6 hours, right? To be analogous versus
Right.
the flash fry. Don't fry your French fries. French fries are delicious, but that's not the point. Don't fry your French fries. Bake them slow in the crock pot, right? So that way we're taking 1 step forward and no steps back, or at least attempting to do that.
From your experience, what has been some of the feedback you've received, or from clients themselves, or that from other people that you've heard of that have kind of bought into this mindset and this method of training of not doing maybe your stereotypical workout and instead training like an athlete?
I think it keeps them sharp. I think it keeps them having a competitive edge. I think it helps in other areas of life. I think it forces them, like we talked about, discipline and consistency. I have I call him a friend of mine. He used to be an intern.
Okay.
He was I think a mid-40s intern. I'm not saying anything about age. I'm just wanting to give people
Yeah.
a picture here. When I used to co-own a gym, he was a client, then became an intern. He was doing a lot of endurance athletic events, runs, bikes, swims, triathlons, Ironmans. But he was also brutally strong, had a background in college football. If he's tuning in, he
Okay.
probably knows what I'm talking about. I'm not going to say names.
Right.
But he's also a police officer.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then fast forward about 3 or 4 years, and then we were on the BJJ mats together locally. And I tell you, he is a handful to deal with. And so he's strong, he's powerful. And he and I would always talk like, what keeps you doing this? It's like, I got to be better than I was yesterday. So that mentality. So just having the ability to have a goal, to remain consistent and be disciplined. If you can do those things, I do think in your training, I do think it impacts positively all other areas of your life. And then you're able to say, hey, I can make this a part of my lifestyle and I get to do it. I don't have to do it. It's a complete reframe in the way you think about working out. Like, oh, I got to work out today. No, you get the opportunity because there's some people in the world that unfortunately can't for whatever the reasons may be.
Very true. Matt, our time has flown by here. Hopefully we can maybe reconnect and, continue the conversation sometime. I think that would be really good. But this has been an excellent conversation, a very important one that I know a lot of people have taken a lot from. I think there are a lot of conversations in the industry and, research backing up the fact that as we age, we lose that strength and power. And how we have to continue training for that. But I think this is an important conversation to have to remind people to continue training for that overall athleticism for a lot of the benefits that you mentioned here today. So if you're listening, watching this, and you haven't got your copy yet, definitely pick up your copy of Train Like a Pro. It's available on the Human Kinetics website, us.humankinetics.com. As well as Amazon. I'm sure you can find it in a number of other places as well. You'll find a lot of the things that we talked about today, so much more. There are exercise descriptions, demonstrations to help you out there, sample programs like Matt mentioned to help get you started with that as well. So thanks again, Matt. I really appreciate it. I'll give you the last word here for a good take-home message, and please let everyone know, if they're not already following you, how they can keep up with all your information.
Yeah, thank you for having me on, Aaron. I appreciate it. Thank you to the HK team. You guys are amazing. Don't stop doing athletic stuff. Keep it simple, right? That's the way I like to look at it. And Instagram. I'm here on Instagram. You can find me here. Thank you again for tuning in. I really appreciate it.
Awesome. Thanks again, Matt. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you soon.
You as well. Take care.